All right, get ready because we're going deep into geography today.
Oh, geography.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We're using IELTS prep guides as our source material.
IELTS prep. Interesting.
I know, right? You might be thinking, wait, I'm not prepping for that exam. But trust me, there's some good stuff in here.
Mhm.
It's all about learning how to talk about geography, in a way that makes people actually want to listen.
That's a good skill for anyone, I think.
Totally. And one of the things that really stood out to me was how they handle those like classic getting to know your questions about geography.
Oh, I see.
Like they really push you to go beyond just yes or no answers and to like weave in personal experiences, make it more engaging.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So for example, like the question, do you enjoy learning about geography?
Okay.
Instead of just saying yes, they suggest like drawing the listener in with a little story. Like maybe you've found geography boring in school, but then, I don't know, a trip to the Grand Canyon totally changed your perspective.
Right, so sharing that journey, even briefly, makes it more interesting for the listener.
Exactly. It's all about adding those details, that sensory stuff.
It's kind of like that difference between saying, I like pizza, and describing that first bite of a perfect cheesy slice, fresh out of the oven.
Yeah. It's all about that personal touch.
Yeah, and it's not just about making things sound more interesting. I think it's also about, revealing your perspective
I see.
and helping the listener understand why you find geography fascinating.
Now, another question they tackle is, what is the geography of your hometown like? And I was really impressed with their approach here.
Oh, tell me about it.
They really encourage you to paint a picture with your words,
I like that.
going beyond just listing basic facts.
So how do they do that?
So one example they use describes a hometown situated on a flat, fertile plain. It's perfect for agriculture.
Okay, that's a decent start.
Right. But what really elevates the answer is the comparison they make.
Oh, a comparison.
Yeah, they compare it to mountainous regions or coastal cities.
That's clever.
It makes you stop and think about those, defining characteristics, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, if my hometown were on that plain, what would stand out?
I see what you mean.
I bet you'd start thinking about those endless fields, the big sky.
Right.
Maybe even the way the light hits the crops at different times of day.
Exactly. It's about finding those details that make a place distinctive.
And what's really cool is that they don't just stop at description. They go on to explain how the plains geography shapes the town's economy, highlighting the reliance on farming.
So they're adding depth.
Yeah, it suddenly makes you realize how geography isn't just about pretty landscapes. It's about how people interact with and adapt to their environment.
And that connection to human experience is so crucial, I think.
Right.
It's what makes geography relevant to everyone, even if you're not, a geographer.
Okay, let's move on to another question that caught my eye. Describe a place with unique geography. Now, the example they provide for this one is absolutely breathtaking. They talk about visiting Iceland.
Iceland.
And honestly, it sounds like stepping onto another planet.
I love Iceland.
What I love about their answer is the vivid imagery they use. Volcanoes, glaciers, geysers.
You can practically feel the icy wind on your face and smell the sulfur in the air.
Right. And it's not just a bunch of random facts thrown together. They weave it into a captivating narrative.
Okay.
For example, they talk about the Blue Lagoon, that geothermal spa surrounded by lava fields.
I can picture it.
Such a striking image.
Yeah.
You can't help but remember it.
It's interesting how they take that striking image and connect it to a larger theme, like that delicate balance of nature.
I see.
They mention how Iceland harnesses geothermal energy for sustainability, showing how people are adapting to and respecting this unique environment.
I think that's a key takeaway here. It's not enough to simply describe a place. What makes it truly memorable is connecting those descriptions to bigger ideas.
Bigger ideas.
Yeah, like sustainability, cultural identity, or even the impact of climate change.
Absolutely. It's about understanding how geography shapes not just the physical landscape, but also human history and culture.
And our relationship with the natural world.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about describing your hometown, a unique place.
Right.
But what about the broader question of how geography influences people's daily lives?
Yeah.
This one seems like a tougher nut to crack.
It does, but you know what? The IELTS material handles it brilliantly. They offer a range of examples from transportation challenges in mountainous areas to the economic reliance on fishing in coastal communities.
I see.
It's like painting this picture of how geography weaves its way into every aspect of our existence.
And what really makes it click for me is when they bring it back to a personal level. They have this example of someone adapting their daily routine to avoid the intense heat in a hot, dry climate. I mean, who hasn't done that, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It makes you realize that geography isn't just some, abstract concept you learn about in a textbook. It's a force that shapes our decisions, our habits, even our sense of community.
It really makes you see things in a new light.
It is. It's making me see my own neighborhood in a whole new light, that's for sure.
And that's the power of exploring geography with this kind of depth and intention, I think.
Totally.
It just opens your eyes to the interconnectedness of things, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Now, speaking of interconnectedness, they also address the, age-old question, why is it important to study geography? I have to admit, their answer really surprised me.
Surprised you?
Well, they went beyond the usual arguments, about understanding maps and knowing your capitals.
Hmm.
They really emphasized the importance of understanding our planet and the challenges we face, like climate change and resource management.
Yeah.
It felt much more urgent and relevant.
It's about connecting geography to global awareness, right? They use a really powerful example, the melting of the polar ice caps. It's a stark reminder that geography isn't just about static landscapes. It's about understanding these dynamic systems
Right.
and how our actions impact them.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah,
But you're absolutely right. It makes a strong case for why geography matters, even if you're not planning on becoming a professional geographer, right?
totally. It's about becoming informed citizens of the world,
Right.
understanding the interconnectedness of our environment and being able to think critically about the challenges we face.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of studying geography, but what about our personal preferences? Do we prefer living in a place with diverse geography or one with a consistent landscape? I found their approach to this question really intriguing.
Oh, yeah, me too. They acknowledge the appeal of both options, right?
Yeah.
They mention how consistent landscape can be ideal for things like agriculture and infrastructure.
Yes. But then they swing back around and make a compelling argument for the adventure and beauty of diverse geography.
Yeah.
It feels like they're weighing both sides of the coin before ultimately siding with the adventurers.
It's a clever way to demonstrate critical thinking, wouldn't you say? They're not just stating a preference, they're showing they've considered different perspectives.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of landscape truly resonates with you? If you could live anywhere in the world, what kind of geography would you choose? And why?
It's a fascinating question to ponder.
It is.
And it speaks to the heart of what makes geography so compelling, It's about more than just facts and figures. It's about those deep personal connections we forge with the places we inhabit and explore. Welcome back to our deep dive into geography.
So, going through these IELTS materials, one thing that's really stood out to me
Yeah.
is how much they stress going beyond just listing facts,
Facts?
Like, they want you to create an experience for the listener,
Oh, I see.
almost like you're taking them on a journey. One of the best ways to do that, they say,
Uh-huh.
is to use vivid imagery and sensory details, right?
So like painting a picture with words.
Exactly. Let those listeners really visualize the place.
Okay, I like that.
So there's this one example that really stuck with me. The question was, how does the geography of your country attract tourists?
Interesting.
And the sample answer they give is just brilliant.
What do they say?
Well, they talk about how their country has this, incredibly diverse geography, right?
Okay.
That appeals to all sorts of different interests.
I
It's
get
like they've made this mental map for the listener,
mental math.
highlighting the different regions and the unique experiences they offer.
Give me an example.
Okay, so they mentioned the towering Himalayas, right?
Hmm.
For trekking and mountaineering.
Oh.
Then you've got the beaches of Goa, sun-kissed beaches for relaxation,
Okay.
and even historical cities like Jaipur, nestled amidst a stark desert landscape.
So they're really showcasing the variety.
Yeah, and I love how they don't just say, we have mountains and beaches.
Wow.
They give you specific details,
So you can really imagine it.
Like you can practically feel the sand between your toes when they talk about Goa, or imagine that crisp mountain air as you ascend the Himalayas.
It's all about those details.
And it's that level of detail that really makes the difference, I think, between a bland description and a truly engaging story.
Yeah, I agree.
They also, very cleverly, weave in those economic and cultural connections we talked about earlier.
Oh, right.
For
Right.
example, they mention how the tourism industry thrives in these diverse regions.
Showing that interplay between geography and human activity.
Exactly.
So are there any other examples in these materials?
Well, there's this mock IELTS speaking test they include that I found really interesting.
A mock test. What's that like?
It's like we get to see behind the curtain a bit
Oh, interesting.
and see how these techniques actually play out in a real-life scenario.
Okay, I'm curious.
So in this mock interview, the examiner asks, can you describe a geographical feature in your hometown that stands out?
That's a good one.
The answer they provide focuses on a river that flows through the city.
Okay.
But it's not just about the river's physical presence, right?
Right.
What makes this answer really stand out is the connection they make between the river and the community's cultural identity.
I see.
They talk about how the river provides water for agriculture,
Yeah.
how people gather along its banks for picnics and festivals.
Huh?
It's like this, it's woven into the fabric of their daily lives.
It's a part of their identity.
Yeah, and it's a great example of how even a seemingly, I don't know, mundane geographical feature
Right.
can hold deep meaning and significance,
Yeah.
when you connect it to personal experiences and shared history.
It's like reminds me of the creek I used to play in as a kid.
Oh, tell me about it. What was it like?
Well, it wasn't exactly the Amazon or anything,
Right.
just a small, winding creek that ran through our neighborhood. But for us kids, it was like a whole world of adventure.
You bet.
We'd build dams, search for crawfish, pretend we were explorers navigating uncharted territory.
That's perfect. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That creek, I mean, geographically insignificant on a larger scale, right?
Sure.
But it held immense personal meaning for you.
It really did. It shaped my childhood experiences.
And it underscores the idea that geography is as much about personal connection as it is about factual knowledge.
Absolutely. And I think that's a key takeaway for our listeners.
Yeah.
As you explore the world or even just your own neighborhood, take the time to consider those personal connections.
Why that?
What places hold special meaning for you and why?
What stories can you tell about those places?
The ones that bring them to life for others.
So beyond these specific examples, the IELTS material also provides some general tips for scoring high on the speaking portion of the exam.
Tips?
And I think they're valuable for anyone looking to, improve their communication skills.
Oh, for sure.
These tips, they go beyond just test-taking strategies.
Okay.
They offer valuable insights into effective communication in general.
So what kind of tips do they give?
Well, one of the key things they emphasize is extending your answers. It's about moving beyond those simple yes or no responses,
Right.
providing details, examples, personal reflections
I see.
to make your answers more engaging and informative.
It's like we've been saying, right?
Yeah,
Painting a picture with words.
taking the listener on a journey.
Exactly.
They also talk about the importance of using topic-specific vocabulary.
Okay, so for geography, that might be words like...
Landscape, topography, climate, ecosystem.
Right.
Using that type of vocabulary, it really shows your understanding of the subject, right?
It does, and it lets you communicate your ideas more precisely.
It's like having the right tools for the job.
I like that.
The more precise your language,
Yeah.
the clearer your message will be.
Another tip they highlight is practicing fluency.
Fluency, okay.
Now, this doesn't mean speaking perfectly without any pauses.
Right.
It's more about speaking naturally and confidently.
Even if you need a moment to think.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's where those filler phrases can come in handy.
Filler phrases.
Like, that's an interesting question, or let me consider that for a moment.
Oh, right, to buy yourself some time.
Exactly, without making you sound unprepared.
And speaking of sounding prepared, they also stress the importance of pronunciation.
I think pronunciation is often overlooked.
Yeah, it is.
But it can make a huge difference in how you come across to others.
It really can.
Like, even if your grammar isn't perfect, speaking clearly and confidently can make you sound much more credible.
Totally agree. It's about conveying your message with clarity and conviction.
And finally, they remind us to stay confident throughout the conversation.
Confidence, yeah.
Everyone makes mistakes,
Of course.
but it's important to keep going, Don't let those mistakes derail you.
Yeah, the goal is to...
Showcase your communication skills. Share your passion for geography.
It's about focusing on the big picture.
Yeah, engaging in a meaningful conversation.
Demonstrating your knowledge and enthusiasm.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We've explored how to answer common geography questions, in a more captivating way,
Right.
analyzed a mock IELTS speaking test, and gleaned some valuable communication tips.
But our journey's not over yet.
Not over yet.
We have one final thought-provoking question to leave you with.
Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's the final part of our deep dive.
Looking at geography through the lens of these IELTS materials.
I'm honestly kind of blown away by how much we've learned about, talking about geography in a way that really grabs people.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Going from those simple descriptions to weaving in stories, making those insightful comparisons.
Even connecting those features to bigger ideas, like sustainability.
I feel like we've unlocked a whole new level of, understanding when it comes to the world around us.
So are you ready for that final thought-provoking question?
Oh, yeah. Hit me with it.
Okay, so think about all the places you've been, or maybe dream of visiting.
Yeah, okay.
Which geographical feature has had the most profound impact on you, and why?
Whoa, that's a tough one. I think for me, it'd have to be, the ocean.
The ocean.
Growing up near the coast, it's always been there,
Yeah.
shaping not just the physical surroundings, but my sense of self,
I can see that the ocean has this power, this vastness.
It does.
Evokes awe and wonder. What is it about the ocean that speaks to you?
It's hard to put into words.
Yeah.
But I think it's the combination of its, just how huge it is and how it's always changing.
Travis change, yeah.
One day, it's calm and serene, inviting you to swim.
Right.
And then the next day, it can be wild, unpredictable,
Wow.
a force to be reckoned with. It's both, terrifying and exhilarating at the same time.
That duality is fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
A reminder that nature is both beautiful and powerful. Sounds like the ocean's really shaped your perspective.
It has. It's taught me about, how everything's connected, the cyclical nature of life, the importance of adapting to change.
And thinking back to those IELTS materials,
Yeah.
it's a perfect example of how a geographical feature can be so much more than just a physical thing.
Right.
It can be inspiration, a symbol,
A metaphor.
and I think that's a powerful message for our listeners.
For sure.
As you explore the world around you, your backyard, a far-off continent,
Doesn't matter.
remember to look beyond the surface. Consider those deeper meanings.
Those connections that shape our experiences.
And don't be afraid to share those insights.
Talk about it.
Use descriptive language. Tell your stories. Make those connections between geography and what matters to you.
You might be surprised by what you learn.
Absolutely. This has been an incredibly insightful exploration.
It has.
And I hope our listeners feel empowered to embrace the power of geography.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
Keep exploring.